G'day everybody, Chris Carlin here, masteryourmoneynow.com.au, helping you take control of your finances from the comfort of your own home. And I wanted to respond to a reader's comment of my blog about falling house prices. Is it real? What do we do about it? And how should we respond to this supposed fall in house prices? So here's the thing. I'm sure you've seen the newspapers saying that, the Sydney market's down 10%, the Melbourne market's down about 7 or 8%, and it's going to fall another 20%, especially with the Royal Commission banks getting harder to get loans and all this kind of doom and gloom and things like that. But now, let's work with the assumption that that data is actually real for a second. And I do have questions about it, but let's just assume for a second that that data is actually real. The first question I want to ask you is, where is the prices actually dropping? So take Melbourne, for example. Melbourne's a big city. Like there's at least 100 suburbs, if not more. Where are the prices actually dropping? And if you look into the data a bit more detail, again, it's a big generalization here because it varies from suburb to suburb, even street to street. But what we're generally seeing is that already expensive suburbs, especially in the southeastern suburbs, where they had $2, $3, $5, $10 million houses, they're the ones that are really dropping in value quite a bit. But where the first home buyers are buying, regular people are buying, those prices are generally holding steady. They're certainly not booming, but they're holding steady. Even in Geelong, where we're based at the moment, the property prices across Geelong has generally gone up between 5% in the last 12 months, when Melbourne and Sydney have dropped more than 10%. So it varies from street to street and city to city. So to say that the whole property market's going to collapse in the next 12 months is absolutely ridiculous. Even if you go back in the last 10 years where we supposedly had this massive boom, ask people in Perth about the massive boom that they've had in property prices. They'll just look at you strangely and go, what are you talking about? Property prices have dropped in the last 10 years in Perth. So what is this supposed boom that you're talking about? You see, you can't make a big generalization about the property market. Property market is no different to share investing. It's based on so many factors, and you can't make a sweeping generalization about what's going to happen there. So now what? What do we do? If you are if you have purchased a house in particular, what do we do now? Now, my question to you is make sure you review your budget. Make sure that you're able to afford your repayments and keep making those repayments. Because one of the good things about property, I've been in financial planning for about 8 years now. I have not met anyone who was able to keep making their repayments and have their house repossessed. What I mean by that is, even if your house price does drop in value, if you keep making your regular repayments, even if it's just the minimum repayments, but if you keep making those repayments, the banks are not going to take your home away from you. They're only going to take it away if you stop making those repayments. So make sure that you're able to still make those repayments, make sure you still have a buffer in place, and make sure that you've got good income protection policies as well that enables you to keep making those repayments if something was to happen to you and you're unable to work due to injury or illness. Because the last thing that you want to do is sell a property when the prices are down. You want to sell them when prices are going up. Okay? Now, and finally, take a long-term view as well. And when I say long-term view, I'm going to take 30 years. Because here's my statement. Whilst I've got no idea what property prices are going to do, and it's going to vary from street to street to suburb to suburb, as I said before, but I'm pretty confident in saying that in 30 years' time, property prices are going to be a lot more expensive than they are right now. I know that may be hard to believe, but if you go back in Sydney, I believe in 1982, the average property price was only 100 grand. 100 grand back in 1982. And now it's over $1.2 million. And that's going to continue on as our wages do increase and we build more wealth and as we grow as a country, then property prices are going to continue to go up over the long term. They might not be doing the 10, 15, 20% that they have in the last 10 years in some areas, but let's be honest, we all knew that was unsustainable. But we know over the long term, we still believe the property is still going to be a long-term investment. So if you're in for the long term, you're able to keep making those repayments, and you are an investor, making sure you've got good tenants in there as well, helping you make those repayments as well, I'm sure that this falling house prices is not going to be an issue for you. If you want to discuss this in more detail, by all means, book in your free 30-minute consultation with myself with one of my team members. Go to masteryourmoneynow.com.au/get started, and you can book in a time that suits you. Thanks for joining us for this week's Whiteboard Wednesday. I hope if you've got value out of this video, make sure you share it with your friends, families, and work colleagues. Looking forward to catching up with you next week.